Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good whatever time of day it is. Thank you for tuning in to Conversations with Dr. Don. For your first-time viewers, Conversations with Dr. Don is an ongoing series of one-hour standalone talk shows where I interview interesting people like most of you out there about who they are as unique, one-of-a-kind individuals and about whatever it is we've decided to talk about. And my guests this evening are old-time friends, and directly across from me is Dave King, yeah, and right next to me is Doug Goodrum, and there's a long story about both these guys and how I met them, and we'll get into that later on. Welcome to the show, fellas.
Thank you.
Are you as nervous as I am?
Yes, absolutely.
How are you, Dave?
I'm good. Are you nervous?
Yeah?
Yeah.
And I never know how nervous I'm going to be. It varies all over the place. Mm-hmm. And I'm still probably tracking back to the time when Doug and I were in theater together. And I was a novice and he was an old pro. And he was my leader and I was watching him all the time. So I feel like a little boy now sometimes when I think about those times. It was a wonderful time. I really enjoyed it.
It was a really good time. Yeah.
So as you know, the show usually goes in two major parts. The bio part where I talk about who you are a little bit. To have the viewers have an idea where you're coming from when you talk about what's important for you. Mm-hmm. And then to get into the subject of what it's about. And you saw in the opening on the screen, the show was about Community Resources Network, which Doug is the man on, and jobs with this climate crisis situation, and that's Dave's thing. So anyhow, let's get going. Let's start with you, Doug. You ready?
Okay, sure.
Okay. I asked you earlier before the camera started rolling, Doug Goodrum, does that last name have any significance as to how you are with the sauce?
I like to have a cocktail here or there, but yeah, my background's Scottish, Scottish-German. My father's parents came over from Scotland and settled in Ohio, and my parents are from Ohio, and then they moved to Florida and had me when they were in Florida, so I was born and raised in South Florida.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what year were you born? Do you remember?
1956.
1956, yeah, in Florida. And anything else about yourself personally that you can volunteer without my asking you?
Oh, okay. You know, they put me on the hot seat. Well, I'm a pretty energetic person, and I work really hard, and I come from some pretty basic work ethic type roots. In other words, I started in the restaurant industry when I was 15 years old and worked my way up in that field. I went to college at Portland State, traveled across the country 4 different times.
What'd you major in?
Business administration, marketing, yeah.
Marketing. You've been involved in that along with your theater stuff. And anyhow, what else can I ask you about? What are you doing now in your life by way of earning a living?
Well, I am in transition, as we say.
Yes.
Which means I left a 6-year career in home loans to go back into more traditional sales role, or sales leadership, I like to call it. And so I've been in transition, looking for that next ideal fit for about 2 years. Yeah.
Is it coming along okay?
You know, it's a tough road. I didn't think it'd be as tough as it is. You know, like a lot of people, I thought, oh, I'll just pop out of one thing and pop into the next, you know, and it's not been quite that easy. And so, yeah, there's been a lot of hurdles.
Yeah, you're still managing.
Yeah. So in the meantime, I do some work with a company called AFMS. It's a logistics firm. So I kind of do that to earn a living a bit and to also keep my skills sharp.
Are you having to dig up any of those coffee cans in the backyard?
That was a long time ago. Those cans are gone, man.
You mentioned before the camera started rolling that you had a celebration last night.
Yes, I did.
Tell us about that.
Oh, okay. My fiancée, Anya, and I celebrated 5 years since the day we met. We met on May the 1st, 5 years ago. So we had a little celebration at a hotel downtown, had about 12 nice friends join us. Yeah, it was a good night.
Downtown in Portland, Oregon.
Portland, Oregon, downtown Portland.
Yeah, she still managed to hang with you for 5 years.
I know, isn't it amazing? Gosh, you know, the things some people will put up with, you know.
It's not fair because I get to ask you these teasing questions
Yeah.
and it's all one way, but you
I
got
know,
me.
I know. I'm on the spot, as we say, yes.
Any memberships in social or civic organizations that would be of interest to the viewers that you are involved with? I know you're involved in humanitarian work and caring for fellow human beings.
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll get to that, I guess, in a little bit. But,
Sure.
you know, I was an active member of the Portland Business Alliance. I was an active member of American Marketing Association. I guess a lot of that is business organization oriented. I personally attend probably about 10 to 12 business networking events a month. So I'm out in the community a lot, meeting people that way.
Okay.
So no civic organizations per se.
Can I ask you a trick question?
Yeah, go for it.
Why were you born?
Why was I born?
Why does everyone always say that question back? Why was I born?
Why was I born? Wow. Okay. Well, that is a trick question. Do you want a trick answer? Or do you want a straight answer?
Whatever.
All right. Oh gosh, I don't know. To help others feel motivated, I think. To lead a bit. People seem to follow me pretty well, and you know, I've led a very unique life with lots of ups and downs. And I was a high school dropout who paid my own way through college, for example. So way back in those early days, I was an example to other people that no matter where it's not where you're from, it's where you're going. That's one of my favorite sayings.
High school dropout.
Yes, yeah.
I just keep going.
Waited tables at night, paid my way through Portland State University, graduated with honors.
With honors?
As a marketing student of the year, I must brag. Yes, there's only one of us. Only one of us, yeah. So, yeah, as chosen by the faculty.
Yeah, well, before we move on to something else, will you talk a little bit about your acting in theater? Just for my own fun.
Well, for the people that are going to view this later that are business associates of mine, they're probably going to go, acting in theater.
You want to say a few words about it and then move on?
Sure, I understand. Gosh, I was 28 and had already had a few years of business under my belt, moved to Los Angeles.
Yes.
And took a wild ride of just saying, I'm just going to hit the street and see what happens. And so I lived in LA for about 6.5 years as an actor, did a few things, got some credentials under my belt, but didn't like the LA lifestyle. It wasn't my cup of tea.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, maybe if I was younger or, you know, a little bit more silly and footloose and fancy free, so I just didn't like it. But I came back to Portland, Oregon at that point in 1990. So I've been a full-time resident of Portland since that time. And since that time, I've been doing theater, local theater.
Are you still doing theater anymore?
You know, I try to do a play a year. That's my goal. I try to do one play a year, but I have skipped a couple years now. I haven't done anything for about 2 seasons. But yeah, my ideal world is to get cast in something that starts rehearsing in January. We open in March, and I'm done by the end of March. I'm kind of real picky that way, you know.
Okay, your producers out there, you hear that?
So I missed it this year, but there's next January coming up, so yeah. Yeah, no, that's how you and I met, of course, is that we were in the same show together. And you were so kind in the beginning of the broadcast to talk about how I was helping you and guiding you, and you looked up to me and, hey, we're all a bunch of actors on the stage, especially in community theater.
But she was so darn good. You said right out. Was it a Shakespeare thing we were doing?
Gosh, well, it was St. Joan.
St. Joan.
St. Joan.
Yeah.
So it was a period piece and
was an
costumes and the Archbishop, and I played the Dauphin, the Dauphin, yeah.
What a memory, my God.
I know, that was a while ago now. I was down at Hillsborough Artists Repertory Theater, yeah.
Yeah.
But it was a fun show.
Yes.
And, you know, community theater is neat that way, you know. You just throw it out there and you don't have any pressure really because what's the worst that's going to happen, you know? They don't come to see you, I guess. It's not, unlike LA where if you screw up, you pay the consequences.
And my impression of you at the first time was that you had spent your life doing theater and acting, the whole enchilada from the very beginning, from the time you were 15 years old. But it turns out that was just an incremental part of your business life, in which you've been about professionally and earning your keep.
That's right. I should have rolled it back that far. You're right, though. Good memory. Good memory. No, my father was a set designer. And so I did start in theater when I was about 12. I played a particular role, Nick, in 1,000 Clowns, a very famous stage play that a lot of community theaters do. And Nick is a 12-year-old boy in the play. It's one of the few, roles at that age, and I played Nick more times than I want to remember, probably. So I did start earlier than that. You're right.
Yeah.
And then and actually now, thanks for the reminder, I actually started at Portland State in theater arts.
I knew there was more you were
You're right.
holding
You're
on.
right. You're right. Yeah, I was holding out on you, Dr. Don. Yeah.
There was something about anyhow. You
Yeah.
are so
And then my
good.
junior year is when I moved over to business administration.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's move over to the subject that you're here to talk about primarily. Can we do that now?
Sure, please.
Community Resources Network.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us, what is that Community Resources Network?
Okay, it's actually it's a career resources
Career,
network. That's okay.
pardon me.
Career resources network. In my own career search, as I transitioned out of home loans 2 years ago, I started to attend for the first time in my life other what are called job groups, where it's a meeting usually once a week. Usually they only have 10 to 15 people in most groups. There's larger ones too. And I started to attend. Started to find my way through the maze of resume writing and interview skills and networking and all those important things you need to know if you're looking for a new job. And so I started to attend these other groups and started kind of realize, this group does that really well and this group over here does this really well, but there's not really one that does both things or three things that are important on those kind of events. So in other words, they might do a great job having a guest speaker. And so they bring in a professional speaker, but there's no networking, or there's no other sharing of skills or knowledge at the meeting other than that speaker. Or they do the other way around. There's some groups that do great networking, but they don't have a guest speaker. And so all you're there for is to meet other people and exchange business cards. So that's why I thought, well, let's try to combine this all together, and hence I started my own little group. And so in the beginning, there was 8 or 9 of us sitting around, and we met once a week. We've changed locations 2 times, and so now we've settled into DeVry University. Has been hosting us since October 2012.
DeVry University is in Portland?
Yes, there's near Barnes Road and 217. So what we've done is we meet every other week, the 2nd and 4th Wednesday of the month, and we've built it now in about a year and a half of operations. We've built it to about 45 attendees every time, and we've helped over 500 people in the Portland area. I'd like to say we've had about 1,300 experiences, because there's people that have come 3 times, 5 times, 1 time, 30 times.
Going to get it right.
Yeah. So add them all up, because we keep it all on a big roster. There's been over 1,200 total attendances so far.
And then you're dealing with the economy and the situation in our country today, and that's quite a challenge to overcome that obstacle into getting a new career or getting good enough or improve enough so that you're more attractive to some corporation who wants to hire you.
Absolutely. Yeah, and that's the key, and that's why our group is called Career Resources Network, not job group, not jobs organization. It's so that people get the understanding that your career needs to be advancing at all times, and you need resources to help your career along at all times. So we try to encourage more and more, even if you go back to work, try to come join us anyway. Even if you're currently employed, try to join us anyway. Don't think we're just for people while they're unemployed, because we all need to keep our skills sharp. We don't need to work on the resume when we become unemployed. We should be working on it at all times.
At all times.
Yeah, and be aware of the newest way to do it, the newest style to do it, the newest interviewing skills. So that's why my guest speakers, we try, even if they're coming to talk about resume, it's not just talk about resume if you're job seeking. It should be talk about in general. All of us need to have our resume up to speed. All of us need to have our LinkedIn profile up to speed at all times.
So your advice to the viewers out there who may need the kind of stuff that you impart to keep your resume up to speed.
Absolutely.
And in the past life, it seems it was so many years ago, I was a technical writer in aerospace before I went back to school and became a clinical psychologist. And being a tech writer, I was sort of the guy to go to in the group where I worked to help them with their resumes. And I did my research. It was pretty good. But then about every 5 or 10 years, an occasion arises where I'm talking to someone about their resume, and I look and say, what happened to my learning 20 or 30 years ago, man? I had it down nailed, you know.
Yeah.
And it turns out now, the last time I did a resume for myself, I realized I have 3 distinct resumes, and not a lie in any one of them. But they're programmed for a certain population who would be interested in that aspect of my life. Yeah. But see, you're calling back old memories, yeah.
Good.
When's the last time you updated your resume?
Last week. Yes.
Good one. What prompted you to go into this kind of a thing that you're in now? There's other things you could go into, but there's a sense of community service and caring for fellows like yourself who are doing something about their careers, and if it's stalled or whatever. What is it about you that had you do that?
You know, I think I've been a person who has helped others quite a bit in my life. I've been very appreciative of where I've come from. I told you earlier about my background as a high school dropout who got the opportunity to go to college, had the opportunity to find a restaurant to wait tables at. So I guess I feel I've been blessed with a lot of good things in my life, ups and downs. But all in all, I'm doing okay. And so I'm just a natural person, I think, that likes to extend that to a lot of other people if possible.
Sure.
And so this thing, the Career Resources Network, my group I'm leading now, it's kind of taken on a life of its own a little bit. And I've got a wonderful group of people that are chipping in as my leadership team. You know, we're in the beginning, it's just yourself kind of doing it. It's all about me doing everything, you know. And there's a lot of good help now I've got. And I'm up to probably testimonials. I'm up to about 32, 33 pages of Microsoft Word document, a file that's that long. Each page has 3 to 5 testimonials from attendees.
That's wonderful.
Yeah. May I show a photo?
Please do.
Yeah, thanks. This is kind of an idea of the meeting.
For that camera to see it.
Yeah, there we go. Thanks. There we go. I'll get it leveled for us. There we go. So there's an example of a meeting every 2 weeks. And this is the self-introduction part, where everyone goes around the room and I beat them up, and I hope they're watching. I know they will be, because I beat them up and say, you have 10 seconds to self-introduce. And we all know this as the elevator pitch. The concept being you're on the elevator, you never know when the person's going to jump off the next floor, right? So you only have a small amount of time to say, here's who I am and here's what I want. We all have the escalator pitch we can have as well. And then we have the tell me about yourself. So we all should have 3 parts, 3 versions at all times.
Yeah.
Super short, kind of short, and a longer one. So we beat people up at the Career Resource Network meeting with, give us your elevator pitch. You have exactly 8 or 10 seconds to tell us who you are, what you want, and how we can help you, and what we can do for you next. So that's that part I just showed the photo of, is we go around the room, 45 people, stand up if they want to, don't stand up, read it off a sheet of paper if they want to, memorize it, and that's our self-introduction part.
What do you tell the attendees at these meetings when to use one of those 3 versions of talking about themselves? Like, you know what I mean by the question?
Yeah. It's depending on the location. You know, most meetings will allow someone to give what really is the escalator pitch. So now we're talking 20 seconds or 30 seconds. You know, usually you have about that much time.
Sure.
But there's other meetings there's one in particular, a Chamber of Commerce I'm thinking of, that has over 100 people every Friday morning at a coffee event. They go around this group of 100 people, and they pass a microphone. So you got the pressure of a microphone in front of you, right? And they say to you literally, okay, everyone, they say this every time. Okay, everyone, you have just long enough to give us your name and your company.
And there's always somebody who goes on and
goes on and on a little longer. And so if you're rehearsed with your 8 to 10 second, you can get that in. They're not going to yank the mic.
Yeah.
Because some people take that long just to say their name and their company, right? Okay. So if you've got your 8 second, you can squeeze in those 15 or 20 words. And the way we coach it at the meetings is, write it out, treat it like you're a Madison Avenue executive, You're an advertiser. Treat it like you're the person writing the tag for the Super Bowl ad that costs $3 million. Every single word has importance.
Yes.
Every single word has real estate value. And so it's on my mind because I was coaching someone about it today at an event. We had a booth at the Innotech trade show.
Where is that, in Portland?
Yeah, it was there. Yeah, it was this afternoon. It was at the convention center. One of our longstanding members, Bruce Burrell, helped us to set that up. It's a very important trade show. We got to have a booth, and we appreciate that because it exposed us to that room of people. But somebody came by. We were talking about elevator pitches, and I reminded him, don't stand up and say, "Good morning. My name is Doug Goodrum." We all know it's good morning. You know, how many times you go around the room and everybody starts with, "Good morning, my name is Doug Goodrum."
Right.
Well, number one, we all know it's good morning. Number two, we all know it's your name. So how about, "I'm Doug Goodrum." You know, blah, 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 right? Because that saves that real estate. The "good morning, my name is," right? Just jump in with, "I'm Doug Goodrum." And instead I coached him, and he was really neat because he came to the meeting 2 weeks ago. So he came to the booth just as an attendee of the event, and he says, "Hey, Doug, I've been working on my elevator pitch." I go, "Really? Let me hear it," you know? So he starts in with something like, "Yeah, hi, my name is Michael Smith, and I'd like you to know that a company's the numbers to a company is the most important thing it has. So I'm really excellent at math, and I can help the company save a lot of money," right? So I coached him a little bit and said, "Well, listen, let's skip that whole 'my name is Michael Smith' stuff. Let's jump right out of the gate with an observation that catches my attention, right?" And so I told him, "Why don't we start out with, you know, a company's numbers are so important to its health and well-being. My name is Michael Smith, and I can," you know what I mean? You know, put the hook out there first, the observation, and I wake up, "Oh, yeah, he's right." You know, mine is if a company increases its sales, it can fix all of its sales. My name is Doug Goodrum, da da da. Because you start out with, "Oh, yeah, I agree with that." Something that people agree with. So anyway, that's kind of one of our things that we do.
What else comes to mind about your adventures in this business that you're into now? Any thoughts come to mind to share with the viewers about what happens there, or how you feel about it? Or
As far as events, the meetings and all, or just in general? Or
just in general.
I think that what I've really found fascinating and personally enlightening and personally fulfilling is all these different careers and interests and focuses that I had no idea about. Because for my whole career, I've been around other sales professionals or business professionals. With something like this I'm doing now, or other things I go to myself, I'm meeting engineers, and I'm meeting project managers, and I'm meeting software developers, and I'm meeting salespeople and accountants, but just the realm, the factors of life that we all have in common, that we're in transition right now. We're all looking for our individual next career move, but in the meantime, we have this thing in common that hey, you know, I need to have these skills, I need to have the business acumens, the approaches, the elevator pitches, all these important things. And so I find that really interesting, that I'm getting exposed to all these people I never even knew about before. And so that's part of it. That's part of why I really enjoy what I'm doing.
We'll have to have you on again about a year from now to see what else you've learned about
That'd be great. That'd be wonderful. I'd enjoy that. Thanks.
What about any particular people you've met or attendees, anything that's unique about any one of those in your interaction with them that left a memory for you to tell us a story about?
There's one person in particular. We just had a great week last week. I literally had about 5 of our people that have come often all went back to work. Is that bravo? Isn't that amazing? All within 1 week. Isn't that neat? Yeah. We're still working up our numbers, and we're kind of trying to clean up our numbers and, okay, of these 500 people that have ever come through our door so far, how many exactly have gone back to work? You know, because all we have to go on really is if they let us know. I don't come anymore because I've gone back to work, you know. So I've had 5 of them in the last week or so that all notified me they went back to work. And one of them in particular, her name is Suze. And Suze, you're going to love this. If you watch the show, I hope you do, because she's the goddess of what she does.
What does she do?
She's an accountant. She's a bookkeeper. But in her elevator pitch, and she's come since about the beginning, I gave out a little award at our annual banquet. We've had 2 now,
Uh,
annual banquets, and I gave it out a little cheap little thing, a $5 frame at the Office Depot, but they all got a nice little certificate, little plaque, and I gave about 5 of them out. I gave them out for my leadership team to thank them for their help.
Sure.
But I also gave one to my longest standing attendees, and Sue's, I think her number was like 32 CRN events she's come to, which means she's come at least 32 times, right? Okay. And bless her, she stands up each time, and she says, my name is Suze Ruddick, and I am the goddess of what I do. and you remember that, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then she tells you, I'm an accountant, I'll do a great job with your bookkeeping. So she is one of the people that was at the last meeting, and she said, Doug, I've got a job, I'm back to work. So it's wonderful.
And that upset you, didn't it?
Well, I guess that's the downside of this organization. I'll lose them, right? They're like,
Yeah, when you're successful.
Yeah, I have this ongoing depletion of resource,
Yeah,
right?
turnover.
Yeah.
You got another story for us before we have you make closing comments to the viewers.
Oh boy, another story. That relates to the events or the attendees, or what are you thinking?
That would be of value to the viewers looking at you now, what we're talking about, this
Sure.
organization,
Sure.
whatever else comes to mind.
The power of networking, that we read and we hear that 80% of the ability to get your next job is going to happen through some form of networking. 80%.
80%.
It doesn't mean all the time, oh, I went to this event and I met Mr. Smith who gave me his card and he hired me tomorrow. It can be any connection at all, any flow at all of networking.
Yeah.
And personally, I've got a current job tracking with a position here in town that I'm hoping I'll get, like we all feel while we're out there applying. And it's strictly through networking. It's because this person knew about that opening, who said, Doug, you need to check this out. And so I check it out, and that person, oh great, I'm glad he referred you to us. And so I'm in that drift now, and then I start the interview process, and that person says, oh, I noticed on your resume you've got some testimonials from a few of your past people. Oh, I know Scott, this person on my testimonial sheet. So there's networking because I know Scott from 5 years ago. So I think, and most of the people that get hired will say, Doug, you're right, it's from some form of networking. And so even just coming to the Career Resources Network every 2 weeks and in that room of 45 people, that's networking.
We're going to need to stop with you now
Thank
pretty
you.
quick, but you got about 20 seconds to say something to the viewers that you think would be of value for them to hear from you right now.
Wow, that puts the pressure on, 20 seconds of that. I would just say if you're watching and you yourself are in transition or someone in your family is in transition, looking for that next opportunity, don't give up. Don't give up. I've been on my own search for 2 years, and people look at me all the time and say, wow, Doug, you're leading this group. You're so dynamic. How come if you're not hired? Well, I don't know. Who knows? There's so much else to it. So I would say don't give up. Keep moving. Keep yourself out there. Come see us at the CRN if you like to, or if you don't want to come to our group, go somewhere and meet somebody who's going to help you with that next opportunity.
You're a great guest. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Dowd.
Can we take a break, Mr. E? Yeah.
Good.
Thanks for staying tuned. And for you viewers who just tuned in after the start of the show, Conversations with Dr. Don is an ongoing series of one-hour standalone talk shows where I interview interesting people like most of you out there about who they are as unique, one-of-a-kind individuals, and about whatever it is we decided to talk about tonight. I've been saying this for 13 years, and I've still got to read it sometimes. My mind's jumping ahead. And now, for the second half of the show, we're going to talk to my other friend over here, Dave King. Your name is so simple until I have a hard time remembering it. So back to the beginning sort of a style here about who you are personally. I remember Portland Community Media, PCM, another studio in downtown Portland, is where you spent so many years, and you were a friend of director Mr. Ellery, and heard some stories about you guys' adventures over there at that studio. So I know a little more about you than you think I know. And it's glad to have you on this side of the table here as a guest.
Thank you.
And you've got some pretty important stuff to talk about. It's a little kind of a different flavor than where Doug was coming from, but I think it would be of interest to the viewers. And where did I see you last? Was it yesterday?
Yesterday at May Day.
Yeah. And I was surprised to see you. You tapped me on the shoulder, looked at me and says, "Hey, you're on my show tomorrow." Yeah. So let's see a little bit about who you are. Ready for your trick question for starters?
No.
I'm going to give it to you anyhow.
I know.
If I were to ask your best friend, who is Dave King? What would your best friend say? They'd say, Dave King is what?
Kind of an idiot.
See why he's my friend?
Yeah, we like you already.
Yeah, I don't know. It would depend on which of my friends would say that. But,
Pick one. Pick your favorite friend.
I don't know. I guess a couple of them would say that I like boats.
He likes boats. You're
He
the first
likes
person.
boats, yes.
Okay.
And he doesn't live in a very big house.
Okay.
Stuff like that.
Yeah.
Live cheap.
We better stop
Economical.
here right now.
Economical.
I think it's really important. I noticed when I started going to junior college, and I had a teacher there that said, well, there's two ways you can go. You can fight your way to the top and make money and buy a big house and be a big success, or you can learn to live cheap, and you don't have to do all that stuff, and you'll be a lot freer. And I thought, that makes sense, and that's what I've done. And I've always kind of been able to live on not a whole lot, you know, and live pretty comfortable, live well, but not spend a whole lot of money.
Any regrets?
No. Well, I mean, I have regrets, but not about that.
We don't want to. No, don't go there.
Please don't.
Hey, and anything significant about your name? It's so simple and straightforward. I can't remember it after half the time. Dave King.
It's just, I used to really worry when I was a little kid, and I was going to Sunday school, and I saw how they put names in the phone book. And I thought, oh boy, I am going to get beat up because my name is going to be King David in the phone book. And they're going to say, who do you think you are?
That's funny.
Did it happen?
No, but it never happened. Nobody ever said that until I was probably 45. And then a couple people started razzing me about being King David.
How does it feel being king?
It's pretty humble.
Is it good to be king? Like yeah.
It's okay.
Tom Petty likes to say.
Yeah, it doesn't really matter.
Okay.
Yeah, it's
So
okay.
what-
It works.
When and where were you born?
Pennsylvania.
Pennsylvania.
In 1939. I was still in the 30s when I got born, but only about 2 weeks. And then I was in the 40s.
You mentioned your education. Anything significant about your formal education that the viewers would appreciate knowing?
Well, I did a lot of physical work. For most of my life, I did physical work, and then I got to where I couldn't do it anymore, and I went back to school. My wife helped me get back to school, and I got a social work degree and went into social work.
Another one of these people helpers, aren't
Yeah.
they disgusting?
Yeah. Yeah, well,
We all
Special work,
are.
special work,
Travis,
yeah.
I specialized in chronic mentally ill, working with chronic mentally ill adults. And I did that when I was a kid, too, when I was in my early 20s. And I really love it. They're my people.
You're a special person.
Nice, yeah.
Boy,
Special
that
work.
takes a lot, doesn't it?
It sure does.
No, it doesn't. Not really. I really have a lot of respect for schizophrenics, bipolar people. They have a rough life, and they fight their way through it.
Mm-hmm.
It's a rough condition to live with.
Any patients or people that left a memory with you about what went on with them?
Oh, a whole bunch.
A whole bunch.
Yeah,
We won't
but
go
I don't
there
want to
then.
break their confidentiality.
We
so-
won't tell their names, but we don't want to go there.
Yeah.
Are you still working now? Or
No,
you
I'm retired. I have over the years, we bought 3 rental houses, and we maintain those houses, and that's enough work. And then we have a big garden, and that's enough work for me.
You work in the garden too?
Hmm. Yeah.
Boy, what a delightful life.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you have a partner.
Yes.
And say a few words about him or her.
Her. We've been together since the mid-'70s, and we started out fighting a lot, bitter fights, long-winded, bitter fights. And over the years, we've stopped more and more fighting, and now we are just so affectionate with each other. It's really great.
And that's sweet.
Yeah, we really love each other. We have a good time. Yeah.
Yeah. Where do you see yourself on the political continuum? Left, right, central, or what? I didn't ask you that question because I don't want to taint your viewers and have somebody think that
Sure.
you're all one way.
Sure.
Left.
Left?
Yes. Imagine that.
He means by that, I'm so far left, I'm almost off the edge.
Well,
Yeah.
I don't know. There's left and left, and
Yeah.
I don't want to category myself.
Sure.
Because I think I'm also pretty practical and realistic.
Mhm.
But I think there's a lot of problems with the society we're living in,
Okay.
and I'm out to fix some of them.
All right. Well, you got a lot of courage, huh?
Well,
And I am too.
what else?
And
What else
so
is there to do?
Yeah.
Yeah. Memberships, any political, social, or civic organizations that are worth mentioning?
Well, I want to talk about the Climate Jobs Committee
We will do that next.
and Jobs with Justice, Occupy St. John's. Those are the main things I'm involved with right now.
Okay. So let's move. One more trick question. Can you make me smile?
No.
I didn't say laugh. I said smile. Too much. Yeah. So I have a couple of questions that to do with the part of the title of the show about why you're here. And the title of the show, Why You're Here, is, you remember?
Climate, jobs and climate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So, jobs with climate. What's happening with the climate? Why and how does it work? What's happening with the climate?
It's we don't know much about it in this country because basically the energy companies have a lock on the politics and the media. You notice they advertise quite a bit on corporate media, and so we really don't know much about what's going on. But when you start looking on the web and find out what's going on, we are getting our butts kicked, and it's just barely beginning to hit us.
By Mother Nature and by climate? Is that what you mean?
The climate, yeah, the climate crisis, the storms,
Yeah.
Katrina and Sandy.
Yeah.
The droughts, the wildfires that have been going across Texas and Oklahoma and New Mexico. Actually, the Arab Spring is a climate event because they eat wheat. They eat a lot of pita bread, right, and wheat
Uh-huh.
stuff. And there was a drought in Russia where the wheat they eat grows. Russia stopped exports of wheat during that drought, and they're already suffering from all the neoliberal economics, austerity. People, were kids couldn't get married. They had to stay at home. There was no money, no jobs, and then suddenly food prices start skyrocketing because of the drought from the climate.
Really?
Yep. Yeah, and that's one of the factors that led to the Arab Spring. But there's all kinds of things going on that are real. And when you think that when we drove here today, that carbon dioxide we put in the air will be in the atmosphere for 75 years.
Oh my goodness. Didn't know it was that dramatic.
Yeah, it's not. I mean, how they have the different geologic times, Jurassic, and we've been living in the Holocene, which has been a very stable period of geologic history, unusually stable, and it's been a really good time to live on this planet. Glaciers on top of the mountains water the rivers water the prairies. There's food growing, and it's been pretty stable. We're not in the Holocene anymore. We've moved on.
Have we caused us to move on
Yes.
past because our contribution with gases and
When you think about it, you look at the Earth. Pictures of the Earth that you see from space. There's a teeny little fingernail thickness of atmosphere around the Earth. It's 6 miles. 6 miles up, you can't breathe without assistance. That's not very far. And we're used to living at the bottom of it, so we just think it's everywhere, but it's not. It's only 6 miles thick. And when you think about it, how many millions of years of carbon deposits of dead plants and animals have we burnt in the last 100 years?
recycled out into the atmosphere.
And dumped it into the atmosphere. And carbon dioxide in the atmosphere acts as a blanket, holds the heat in from the sun, and so the planet's heating up.
So, was it 350.org?
Yeah.
That is maximum acceptable
parts per million
parts per
of
million
carbon.
in the atmosphere.
In the atmosphere. The other day, we just hit 400.
Oh my gosh.
350 is the max that would have kept us in a stable climate.
Do you think 350 is a reasonable, sensible count?
It would have been a good goal. Yeah.
So what's going to happen now because we're past it?
Well, it's scary because it may be that if we have a crash program, which we're advocating, a program like World War II where everybody goes to work fixing everything we can, getting off fossil fuels, and doing what we can to live with the sea level rise and all the problems that are coming at us, we may be able to slow it and maybe even stop it. We won't reverse it. But there's also a good chance that a feedback cycle will be kicked off. Already the Arctic is thawing, and water absorbs a hell of a lot more sunlight and heat than ice does. Ice reflects it, the water in the Arctic absorbs it.
Yeah.
The tundra melts and rots and sends methane into the atmosphere, which is 26 times more effective as a greenhouse gas than carbon dioxide is. We could go on and on and on. I mean, it's that's why they say we're not going back. We're out of the Holocene, and we're not going back.
So, in the title of your segment is the jobs crisis.
Right.
How is talking about the climate situation and jobs in America?
Well, I think what we have to do is we really have to avoid the jobs versus the environment dichotomy that's happened in the 80s and the 90s. It's not. We really need to get off the dime and fix this thing and get to work fixing it. And that is going to be millions of jobs, really. And there's already lots and lots of people working in the alternative energy fields, all kinds of alternative energy fields. I've got some figures here, but just trust me, clean energy is generating a lot of jobs now.
Uh-huh.
It's competitive with fossil fuel energy.
In this country?
Yeah, and especially in the world, but in this country too.
Yeah.
Fossil fuels are very cheap here. There's been a lot of production, and we just happen to be a lucky country that has a lot of fossil fuels. A lot of coal, a lot of oil, and this fracking of gas is generating lots of gas. So, but even here, the alternative energy is competitive. So, but if there's a crash program, then it would be a no-brainer. It would be really easy. I mean, you know, if we really had the political will to do this, it wouldn't be hard to get off fossil fuels. But it needs the problem is politics.
Yeah.
So
go ahead.
So what we're doing, our little committee, is about introducing this challenge to people in the labor movement, and we don't advocate any stopping any jobs. We're not talking about the coal trains or exporting natural gas. We're not talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
Some people, and as an ex-construction worker, I can see it. That, you know, there's a job like Columbia River Crossing or coal trains. You know, if there's a job that's right there, you can do it. You need it, you'll take it. You know, if I always say if a carpenter could get a job building a hanging scaffold, he would build it, even though he might be on trial, hoping that he'd be acquitted before he got hung. But he'd take the job building the scaffold. So,
Climate Jobs Committee. Climate Jobs Committee.
Yeah.
That's the name of the committee.
Yep.
How did it start? Who formed it?
A group of us, Bill McKibben, who's a real climate activist.
Google Bill McKibben if you don't know who he is.
Yes, Bill McKibben in Rolling Stone. Rolling Stone, Bill McKibben, that combination.
Yes.
We he wrote a really good article in Rolling Stone last summer, last fall, called something about the terrifying new math of the climate or something like that.
I vaguely remember it too.
Yeah. Really good article, real scary. So we took that, we just had the idea, actually Lori and I came up with the idea of let's have an article club and invite people at Jobs with Justice to go to read through this article thing.
And Jobs with Justice is, say what that is.
Jobs with Justice is a coalition of community and labor organizations to support each other and build solidarity and make things better for everybody, or at least slow down getting worse, as well as been turned
Is it
out.
national?
It is.
Of course it is.
And Portland has a very strong chapter of Jobs with Justice. So we took it to a steering committee meeting where there's about 50 people that go once a month to these steering committees, and invited people to an article club to read this article and then discuss it. Well, about 16 people, I think, said they wanted to do that. So we had 2 sessions. We read the article, and people were so moved by the article that they decided they wanted to do something. So we started figuring out what to do, and we came up with climate jobs. That's with this thing of not fighting to keep the fossil fuels in the ground, but fight to build a jobs program.
President King, you're the president now.
I'm the co-president. Mark D'Arienzo is another president. Okay.
I'm talking about the president of our country.
Oh, if I was
if you were the president.
If I was the president of the country, okay.
What would you do to do something about this climate change situation and the job situation in our country, or the lack of jobs in our country?
I would use my position to educate people. I would use the bully pulpit to to educate people about the situation that we're in and who's our friends and who's our enemies.
Isn't the media doing that now?
No. No, the media and the politicians have been bought by the fossil fuel companies. And they're totally in their pocket, and they don't do that. That's why, because they're bought.
Yeah.
But the president could really, he could do a lot to educate people, and people already know. So, I mean, the polls are showing that 3/4 of the people know that there's climate change, know that it's a threat, and know that it's caused by human burning of fossil fuels.
So you're suggesting that he can educate the people, but then you're saying at the same time that the corporate media limits the amount of objective information about
Right.
these kinds of things coming out.
Right.
So what would you do then in
Right.
that instance?
Well, if I were president,
Yes.
then I would, I mean, the corporate media can't ignore me. They can't yet. So I would insist on getting the information out there, getting facts out there, referring people to websites where the information's available. Climate Progress. Google Climate Progress.
May I ask a question?
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. I want to know what kinds of jobs would you
Good.
suggest could
Really
be
good
created?
question.
Jobs that are not even there at the moment. So
Right.
what kinds of non-existent jobs?
Good, thank you.
Do you suggest would we? Because I'm fascinated by this because it kind of brings back to the last time our country was in such a huge economic downturn when we went and, if I'm correct, we went and built bridges. Okay, let's build
Yeah.
all highways and bridges.
Right.
Let's build highways.
Right.
Right.
Recovering
and
from the
so,
Depression.
so
Yeah.
if I was at that time, and I would think, well, why do we need highways? Well, just build highways because it will employ people.
Right.
Right. Okay. Yeah. We'll figure it out later. Right.
And it'll
So,
develop the car culture for the
then it all went from
oil
there.
and
Okay. So
cars
what kind of? I'm fascinated to hear what kinds of jobs.
Okay.
I wish I had asked that. Go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, certainly alternative energy production,
Okay, so
which is
increase that.
solar, wind,
Right.
geothermal, ocean, not biofuels so much, because that's food. People
Right.
need food. But all kinds of alternative energy production, which is a lot. I mean, Germany's been really good on that, and they've got over 300. I think it's 370,000 people working in that sector.
And it's the government that's supporting those jobs, that's paying
Not
those
really.
jobs?
No.
Oh.
What they do is and this is one of the things that our committee is advocating, is what they call feed-in tariff. And that's a way to finance solar by, if you put solar on your roof, you can sell the energy to the utility, to the grid, for a decent, stable price. So you can borrow money from the bank and pay it off your roof and get some money in your pocket.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, and that's how they do it. They're doing that all over Europe. And because of that, everybody wants solar on their roof.
Right.
Okay, I'm aware of the time now. We're going to have to wind down pretty quick. But in summary, what is it that you want to tell the viewers about what we've been talking about in terms of jobs and climate change? What's the final message you can give them in the next 20, 30 seconds? Look at that camera.
Get educated. Go to the web. Climate Progress is a great place to start. Get a hold of me Get a hold of me. There's also all kinds of other organizations that are working on this issue. There's a whole array of organizations and work that's being done. Get a hold of them and get active. Everybody needs to be working on this really hard.
Sounds good. Hey, I'm
Very
so
important.
glad you are here and you're talking about this very important issue. And of course you, Doug. And for a while there, I thought I'd lost my as a host, but the darn questions you asked, I hadn't gotten to yet.
I was pent up. I was pent up. I had to ask the question.
Yeah, and there's a lot. I could say a lot more about
I'm
the
sure
kinds
there
of
are
jobs.
kinds of jobs.
Yeah.
I'm sure there is. So
Public
I can get a hold of you,
transportation.
sure.
Blah, 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 blah.
So it looks like we better start winding down before my director yells at me because we're taking too long. Keep your pens and pencils handy. You may want to jot down something that will show you in the closing credits and right you to give us, I got to tell you about my public service announcements. To get my shows, local broadcast schedule, go to my website, www.donband.com, and click on present day activities, and you'll learn how to do that. And to watch my shows on the web, go to my website again and click on favorite links. There's a couple hundred shows there. Oh, and the ACLU. Oh, thank goodness for the American Civil Liberties Union. Without the ACLU, our civil liberties would be further in the tank than they are with Obama. And to get my shows broadcast by the stations, ask your local public access station in the community where you are in America to go to www.pegmedia.org and follow their instructions, and you can have your local public access station broadcast shows locally, and you can not necessarily wait to watch them on my website. And corporate personhood. Oh my goodness, since the Citizens United decision that has been so critical, we're going to move to amend.org, amend the Constitution, because corporations are not flesh and blood human beings, and money is not speech. And my final thought, rest in peace, poor people's president, Hugo Chavez. My political stripes are showing. Marvelous democratic socialist.
That's right.
He okay. Thanks for watching, and remember KFC? No, not that KFC, not Kentucky Fried Chicken. Dr. Don's KFC, kind, friendly, and charitable. Be kind, be friendly, and be charitable to you too. And you too. And especially you, Doug.
Thank you, Dr. Don. To you as well. Yes, to you as well.
Thank you so much for watching. Good night. And the cameras will stop.